The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Hello everyone, No One of Consequence here, back again with a new video. This is episode 59 in a series which recounts my ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, which is now in its 10th year. So as always, spoiler alert, in this video I will be revealing details found in this adventure module. And this is the current status of the adventuring party. As you can see, the party magic user Thorol is still missing, and the dwarf Obrak was turned to stone last episode. And then also, Varys' guard dog Spuds Mackenzie is still missing as well. So where we left off last time, the characters had returned back to their hideout cave to rest and recover spells, and they had also asked the Titan to carry Obrak along so that they could just keep him here in the hideout cave until they could figure out a way to bring him back from being turned to stone. So the next day, the characters returned to the fire giant lair, and they decided that they should check on the female thief that they had rescued a few episodes back, but then they left her locked up in her prison cell. So when they got there, what they found instead were some dead were-rats in the hallway. And then also they saw that the prison cell door where the thief was being held was open, and she herself was gone. And the characters could only speculate what had happened here. But moving on, the characters went back to the conference room that was also on the same level, the second level, and Varys cast another Animate Dead spell on the last of the dead gnolls that were still located there. And then after that, they returned back down to the third level. The characters went back to that chamber where they had fought the Gorgon and the fire giants on the previous day. And once they got there, they were immediately confronted by a huge red dragon. But this time, it was no illusion. It was the real deal. So Varys charged the dragon, commanding his zombie gnolls to follow him, and some of the other characters closed in as well as the Titan, and he's kind of hidden in the shadows. But I've pointed out here, you can see that Gorbadoc is once again perched on the Titan's shoulder. So the dragon opened the battle by using its breath weapon against the party, which immediately incinerated most of the zombie gnolls, and it ended up killing Gorbadoc as well. After the fire cleared away, only one of the zombie gnolls remained, and Gorbadoc's charred corpse lay on the ground behind the Titan. So the dragon let loose with another breath weapon attack, this time primarily focusing on the Titan, because, of course, he perceived the Titan as the greatest threat. Unfortunately, Varys was still caught in the line of sight of that breath weapon attack, and he failed his saving throw. And the resulting damage killed him, and you can see he's pointed out there on this screenshot. So another thing that happened this round, Garrett deployed a pumpkin carriage Halloween reward item just in case, the surviving characters decided they needed to make a quick escape. And then finally, Niobe cast a blade barrier spell on the dragon, which are pointed out here. The dragon retreated into the darkness to the north in order to escape Niobe's blade barrier spell damage. And so the characters used that opportunity. Niobe dragged Gorb's charred corpse over to the pumpkin carriage, and meanwhile the Titan picked up Aramis's body and placed him on the ground there as well. Now there was a gap in the screenshots here, and probably because there was so much going on that I just forgot to take them. But as you can see, there's been several new developments from the last screenshot, and I'll point some of those out. First of all, you can see that Gorbadoc is alive again and fully healed. I had in my notes that someone used a holiday reward item on him to bring him back. It was probably this one here, the Fruitcake of the Gods. And then also you can see that Aramis's body is gone, and that's because he's been revived as well. And I don't remember the precise means by which the players got him back on his feet. You know, Niobe may have used spells. I don't remember. Unfortunately, all of Aramis's weapons and other equipment are still scattered on the ground at the spot where he was previously killed, and that was because since he failed a saving throw, his backpack burned away and all of his stuff just spilled onto the ground, plus things that he was carrying in his hands. So other developments, obviously you can see that the dragon has returned, and also King Snurry himself has turned up as well. But by this point, King Snurry's already been defeated. And so the Titan has his revenge at last. Gorbadoc, in this screenshot, Gorbadoc, Varys, and the last remaining zombie Knoll all attacked the dragon, but it was still focusing its attacks on the Titan. And then down in the bottom corner, pointed out here, you can see that Aramis and Garrett are fighting what is actually King Snurry's last remaining henchman, who's only partially visible at the bottom edge of this screenshot. As it turns out, he's King Snurry's chief executioner, and he wields this huge razor-sharp battle axe, and he's pretty dangerous because, as per the text in the module, if he scores a natural 20 attack roll, then he automatically severs a limb from his opponent, and that's determined randomly. But it can include the head, so, like say, he was a dangerous opponent. By this time, Niobe, she had cast another blade barrier on the dragon. This time the damage was sufficient to kill it. And then also in that same combat round, the fire giant executioner was also defeated. So exploring the darkness to the north, the character soon found a previously concealed chamber that, as you can see here, is just absolutely stuffed with treasure. And this hidden chamber is where the real red dragon had been hiding when the characters were previously in this area. And what the backstory was, King Snurry, his actual original treasure room is hidden up on the first level, but he brought everything down here while the characters were away resting in their hideout cave one night. And he made a bargain with the dragon, saying that he would give his treasure to the dragon in exchange for its help in fighting the characters. And so, therefore, both the dragon's treasure hoard plus King Snurry's treasure was all gathered up here in one place. So everybody got in there. Nio cast a fine trap spell, and the containers glowing blue in this screenshot are indicated as being trapped in some way. The characters began to investigate the non-trap chests, and it was only at this point that Garrett realized his lockpicks were missing. Now, going back a little while earlier, I mentioned that a few episodes back, the characters had rescued this female thief that they found in a prison cell, but then they decided to lock her back up in the prison cell, promising to come back for her later. And the reason for doing this was that they were afraid that she might steal from them instead of earning her fair share of the loot. And the characters discussed and debated all this while this thief was standing right there next to them the whole time. And this is a screenshot from that episode, a few videos back, and she's pointed out there. And so one thing to notice here, I've pointed out, notice how close Garrett is standing to that female thief. Now, I did not place him there, the owning player did. So while they were discussing what to do with her, I'm sitting there listening to them, and I decided that this thief would not just stand there and do nothing while the characters were debating her fate. So I privately made a couple of pickpocket rolls, and she succeeded in taking Garrett's lockpicks and also his dagger. So when the characters finally decided to force her back into the prison cell, she had these items on her. So then, after the characters had left that area on that day, some of the were-rats, you recall they had previously fought some were-rats, some more of the were-rats, who all worked for the fire giant jailer, returned here, and they noticed that the thief's prison cell door was shut. So they opened it to see if she was still in there, and when they did that, she was ready for them with Garrett's dagger. And if you read the module, you'll see that she's very high level, and the dagger that she got from Garrett was magic. So, were-rats are pretty low level. She was able to make fairly quick work of them and made her escape. Of course, the characters didn't know all of that at the time. So anyway, back to the dragon's treasure. Luckily, Garrett had a spare set of lockpicks in his backpack, and so he got those out and began using them on the untrapped chests. There was just simply too much here to take everything, but the characters sorted out and began loading the most valuable looking stuff onto a floating disc that Varys had cast. So since Garrett, a little while ago, had deployed that pumpkin carriage during the dragon fight, the characters decided to just use that to transport themselves and all that treasure directly back to their hideout cave. But before they left, the Titan told the characters that he was now going to go back to his own homeland. And he thanked the characters once again for rescuing him and helping him get revenge on King Snurry. And of course, the characters tried to convince the Titan to stick around longer, but, he had played his part, and I didn't want him to become a crutch for the characters, so he left, and the characters used the pumpkin carriage to get back here to their hideout cave. So the characters had left most of the trap chests back in the dragon's lair, but they did bring back one small chest it was indicated as being trapped. Garrett had already determined that it was not locked, so there was no danger of accidentally triggering the potential trap trying to pick a lock. So Gorbadoc decided to take the small chest outside of the cave to see if he could somehow get into it without killing himself. And Garrett went along to help, as you can see in this screenshot. And the first thing they tried, Garrett shot an arrow into the chest, but it just stuck into the wood and didn't trigger anything. So then Gorb tied a rope to the arrow, which was stuck in the lid of the chest. And then he played out the rope far enough away to hopefully be able to pull open the lid without being caught in an explosion or anything. So Gorbadoc did all that, and he pulled open the lid, and nothing bad happened. So he cautiously approached the chest and looked inside, and he saw that it was filled with gold rings. So Gorbadoc got out a blanket he had in his backpack and laid it out, and he picked up the chest and dumped them onto the blanket. And it was only when he did that the trap was finally sprung. And what happened, poison needles fired from the walls of the chest, and they would have struck anyone reaching inside with their hand. But since Gorbadoc dumped the chest out, nothing bad happened to him. So Gore bundled up the blanket, brought it back inside, and spread it out on the floor of the hideout cave. Niobe cast a detect magic spell on the pile of rings and determined that 3 of them were magic. So those 3 rings were sorted out and distributed among different party members to hold for later identification. Meanwhile, as you can see pointed out here, Gorbadoc claimed for himself a glowing red ruby that he had taken from the dragon's hoard, and he specifically stated that he was crotching it for safekeeping. So the next day, the characters returned back down to the 3rd level, and they went back to a side tunnel that they had previously found but had not explored. But before going in, they created another silence stone to help mask their approach, and that just means Niobe cast a silence spell on a small rock so they could carry it around. Then also note that Varys' last remaining zombie Knoll is also along as well. So that characters did not advance too far into this tunnel when they encountered a Drow guard post. And of course, melee immediately broke out. And they also saw that there was a barracks chamber off to the side of the tunnel. So Niobe stepped up and threw a Snowball in Hell Christmas gift item against the Drow in this side chamber. And you can see Aramis and Gorbadoc are fighting one of the guards out in the hall. And then after the explosion dissipated, Niobe and Garrett then rushed into the side chamber to follow up on the snowball attack. But unfortunately, Niobe immediately rolled a fumble. You can see the results there. Meanwhile, back in the tunnel, the other characters were now being attacked by more Drow that were advancing on them from the north. One of the characters, I don't remember who, picked up the Silence Stone and threw it into the room beyond, up there at the top edge of the screenshot, to hopefully prevent the sounds of battle from carrying too far up ahead. back in that side chamber, Garrett and Niobe eventually defeated all of the Drow that they were fighting in there. And back outside, that battle continued to develop, but yet more Drow were appearing from the north and moving up to attack the characters. And just in time, Niobe and Garrett ran to catch up with the rest of the party and help with that battle. So just as the characters were making good progress, Niobe was suddenly hit by a glob of glue-like substance which came flying out of the darkness to the north. Fortunately, she still had her phylactery free action on her, and so the blob just slipped away from her and dropped to the ground at her feet. Then, not long after that, another blob of this glue-like substance flew towards the characters, but this one missed without hitting anything. So, pushing further into that chamber, the characters continued to fight various Drow guards, and Gorbadoc once again picked up the Silent Stone and threw it again up ahead and deeper into the Drow tunnel to, again, hopefully help prevent sound of fighting from continuing too far. So at last, most of the Drow were defeated, although some of the survivors went fleeing into the darkness back up to the northwest, which is pointed out here. So that characters cautiously followed the fleeing Drow, and they soon found a small tunnel leading back down to the south, which I've pointed out here. But of more immediate interest to them was a larger chamber to the north, which, as you can see, contained clumps of different colored crystals. So they decided to have Varys and the other characters stay down there and guard the south tunnel entrance that they just found, while Aramis took a torch and went exploring further to the north. But a short time later, Aramis came running back to the others, babbling about some unseen terror located up there, and he was frightened out of his mind. He was in a panic. And then also at the same time, Garrett suddenly spun around and began attacking Niobe for no reason. So not knowing what else to do, Varys threw a snowball in hell that he was carrying blindly into the darkness to the north. He was hoping that this might destroy or at least drive away whatever it was that frightened Aramis and was presumably also causing Garrett to attack Niobe. But then suddenly Aramis switched from being terrified to being enraged, and he suddenly drew a sword and charged Varys with a look of pure hatred on his face. I don't have it in my notes exactly how they did it, but by this point, somehow Niobe and Gorbadoc had managed to at least temporarily disable Garrett so that he wasn't attacking Niobe, but you can see now her health bar is pretty low. So anyway, Aramis closed with Varys and scored a hit and knocked off several of his hit points. This screenshot also indicates that Varys is now invisible, and I think maybe what happened is that Gorbadoc gave his ring of invisibility to Varys in the hopes that if Varys turned invisible, it might disrupt Aramis's rage attack on him. But even so, Aramis continued swinging blindly and actually scored a critical hit against Varys. You can see it pointed out there. and the resulting damage killed Varys outright, and his body reappeared with him lying on the ground there. Then, once Varys was dead, he next turned his attention to Garrett. Aramis turned his attention to Garrett and ran up and killed him this time. You can see his health bar. It appears that, and I don't have it in my notes again, but it appears that Garrett activated his own ring of invisibility in an attempt to escape from Aramis, but Aramis obviously still managed to make a successful blind attack roll and ended up killing him. So again, I don't have the details written down here, but I think what happened is, what happened was Aramis suddenly just snapped out of this rage, and he just acted like he didn't even know what had happened or what was going on. So I know they used, I'm sure it was more holiday reward items they were still carrying to get Varys and Garrett back. And I looked at the time and date stamps on these screenshots, and this particular game session happened in mid-December. So I'm sure what was going on, the players were trying to use up their Christmas reward items that they had gotten from the previous year because they were going to expire in a couple of weeks. So anyway, the bottom line is they managed to get Garrett and Varys back. So after all that, the characters decided that they had had enough adventuring for one day, and so they all returned to the hideout cave. Alright, well that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you can, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and I read and respond to every comment. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, if you can, share the video, and anything you can do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.
The greatest adventure is what lies